Hello everyone, Alex here, and today we're gonna talk about block chance, block amount, and how they work together. So if you see here, you have some base stats. You have a block amount 32.4%, not base stats, and block 76.2. There's also block break, which has a chance of penetrating a block when attacking. So the way this plays out, the only official thing I've seen anywhere about block is this one here, which says block and attack reduces damage by the defender's block amount. Physical damage is reduced by further 20%. The way I read that is uh, if Nightwing blocks an attack from a physical damage dealer, it will add another 20% on top of the 32.4% already block amount that he has by his badge. So he will block 50%, 52.4%, while if a Wonder Woman, for example, attacks him, but if a superpower damage dealer like Superboy or Ivy or Sinestro attacks him, assuming they have exactly the same stats and everything, he will be getting 20% less total damage because the block amount is relegated only for physical damage, not for superpower damage. So if you're considering if you want to put block on a character that's not in a block team but that's a tank like Lex, for example, or Grodd, sometimes you can hybridize those people a little bit, especially like Grodd with a block, and it can make a little bit more sense. But the question basically is, do I want to up the chance of 11% of blocking? With this calculation, you also have to take into account like the opponents in PvP if they have block break, because if Wonder Woman attacks that has 27% block break attacks him that has a 76, let's call it 77 because it's closer. So there's a 50% chance Nightwing will block. So in PvP it wouldn't be extremely impactful because there are some gear pieces like this, or the red one here for attack that give block break as a stat. There's also here block break as a stat, which is not happening for other pieces. I don't know why. It's for speed. So having extra block here is kind of nice. You can have an extra chance of I don't know how much you will give it, like a 8% extra chance of taking 20% less damage from all the physical damage dealers, but not for superpower damage dealers. So if you want to, the block amount for the block team is still strong, it reduces the damage taken by 32.4% always. But the block mechanic, besides the block team, is only exists to stop physical damage for happening. I'm curious if someone has tested that and has gotten different results. I'm seen some discussion saying that base block amount is 20% for everyone and 40% for physical. The way I read this here doesn't really apply. But let me also give an example of how stats, how the token in the game can be misleading, and take of that what you will. It's a little bit tricky to test block against physical and superpower. You need to have many variables. They're the same to test that properly. I know I've tested that quickly against like same-stage edges or system recovery, so they are at least at a similar size opponents. And when like a Nightwing blocks basic from a physical damage dealer, it feels like it reduces the damage by more and by a considerable amount more than when it stops against a superpower damage dealer like Starfire was the example where I tested that on. I haven't like taken a screenshot and done the math, and I tried to do that today, and it's a little bit different. The numbers than I expected are way reduces the damage taken by a lot more. So I don't know then if you have to take into account like the extra block amount he gives. So to keep that simple, I believe the difference is the 20% base block amount, because that's how it says. It's the only official source that I've ever seen about a block. But also the numbers that I said here maybe aren't properly applied or are a little bit misleading. So I would appreciate a proper testing. And so if you have here, if you see here, Robin Sim Synergy gives plus 90% stats to the team if it's applied. So if you have here everything the same and you just change the synergy from Robin to Ivy's, there ends up being a difference, because we tested that and with screenshots and the math and whatever, and but the extra damage people are doing in the front row, so let's say Zatanna Ultimate against the front row, which isn't affected by the Sim Synergy, which may be an extra reason to use Robinson's Team Synergy, but the extra damage, not 90%, is 3.3%. I don't know where they came with this number, where they add the extra 90% attack. Do they add it at the start of like before calculating anything? If you like have the characters sitting like that, even then it doesn't make sense to have a very high base stat that it would be bigger. Are they not taking into account the levels at all? Are they not taking the emblems? Are they not taking the reinforcement? Are they taking some of them? I don't know. So league challenges, there is a very small chance, and the same happens with 3 point, which doesn't make any sense again at all. Like if you add here one more back row damage stack character, it's supposed to give you 50% more attack, and you end up doing again 3.3% more attack. I don't know why this is 50% and 90. Does it not even change for the level synergy 3? Is this bugged? Maybe. So I wouldn't necessarily take always at face value what they're stating. Maybe they don't explain it properly, but based on my testing so far and how I understand the block, this is my conclusion, that physical damage dealers will always deal 20% less damage against characters that block than superpower damage dealers. So superpower damage dealers are 20% more effective, are dealing 20% more damage consistently, because all of them block very often. So that's a consideration to take into account when you try to counter a block team in a PvP, for example. But the difference isn't 52.4%. The difference is by 20%, which is still something to take into account and to consider, and that can be a better counter than physical. Bye for now, guys.